Well, hello there. It's me, Alex William Smith, better known to many of you as Jonathan Royle, Hypnotist. I'm just here, back in my hotel room at the Radisson Blue in Stockholm in Sweden. I know I posted earlier and I said that I'd post the final kind of update video tomorrow, but it's now got to 10 to 11, 10:50 p.m. here in Sweden, and we've been and had Mexican street food, wrap party, other people are partying on, but then it suddenly hit me. And I just feel completely knackered, to be honest with you, because it's been a very long, mentally draining, exhausting few days. And I got here on Thursday, and immediately once I'd checked in, getting bleep there, my wife telling me she's home, I'll give her a ring in a minute. As soon as we got here, I had to go and do costume fittings. Then we had rehearsals the next day, and then there was some stuff being filmed, and it's been totally, completely manic. And is often the case with television projects. Lots of things didn't go to plan, in the sense of they didn't go to the running order. Everything went perfectly well for everyone, all the stuff that's been filmed around me. But I was supposed to be, I was involved in all the episodes in the audience, as I mentioned in other videos, but my actual hypnosis bit, as it were, was supposed to be filmed at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I was supposed to have about 15 minutes with the audience in order to find the 6 most responsive subjects from an audience of roughly just under or just around 50 people. And if you believe some of those old outdated books out there, Natural Somnambulist are about 10%, so I should have realistically only been able to get 5, but I needed 6. So kind of odds against you straight away there if you believe stuff that's in those kind of books by people who haven't done very much in the real world in recent years. What would have been more, what makes it slightly more bizarre is that people didn't know there was going to be a hypnotist. So it was sprung on them. Basically, at the moment, I was put in front of them and said, "Hi, I'm a hypnotist, and we're going to be looking for people," type thing. Although obviously I use very different words than that. So they didn't know there was going to be a hypnotist. So there's no anticipation or build-up. I can't go into details of exactly what went on in the project, other than to say there was an ice cream van there. At one point, the audience were being given ice creams. There was a giant inflatable turtle, and by giant, just look at my Facebook profile, facebook.com/Alex the Hypnotist, and see the photos. It's a bloody massive, this inflatable turtle, and today it was filled with helium and ended up floating above the stage and being moved all around the television studio, which was quite hairy at times when it was trying to go up. They had to literally pull it down to stop it from going up and knocking all the lighting in the TV studio that was hot lighting. If you've ever watched Phoenix Nights, the Peter Kay sitcom from England, I was imagining any moment a Sammy the Snake inflatable bouncy castle exploding incident, because he was getting dangerously close to the lights, and there's a hell of a lot of lights to TV studio, as anyone who's been in one will already know. So yeah, I mean, there was an ice cream van giving out ice creams to people in the audience. There was a live goat, a live rooster, and a live duck that randomly walked in across the studio and on the stage during one of the interviews. Yeah, there were political activists being interviewed, journalists, kind of YouTube stars, a couple of YouTube stars from Egypt. There was people from all over the world, different nationalities, different languages, and everything was being live translated by translators in boxes down the side. So the audience had these equipment headphones on, and if somebody spoke in Egyptian, it was translated to Swedish for them, because the audience was Swedish. But in my case, I had it on the channel where everything got translated into English for me. Everything got translated into English. Anyway, that's a bit of a haze to me. But anyway, I understood it all in English, but I know that all the Swedish people understood it in Swedish. It was a monumental production, 4 episodes. I was under the impression they were going to be about 15 minutes long each, but I've been told today that between the 4 episodes, it will come to 70 minutes in total, but that's between the 4 episodes. In terms of when it's going to be out there, apparently they're looking at having the editing done. And by editing, I just mean putting the bits together. There's very little they're going to be cutting out because it was filmed as live. It's just that they need to put them all in the right order, because another thing that happens in television is things aren't always filmed in the order that you watch them. For example, my bit was filmed at the end of today, not at 3 o'clock like it was supposed to be. I was the final thing filmed in the end. They figured that it was better that I worked with the audience, found my 6 people, and then we did the live, as it would be seen on TV bit, filmed through as a one take. No retakes, as live. Get it right, neck on the line, got to do it, no screw-ups. So it was incredibly stressful for me, I'll tell you, honestly, that despite having been in the hypnosis industry for the best part of 30 years, 3 decades, and in show business for 40 years, come this December professionally, it took every little bit of experience I had to pull this off. Because what they don't tell you in most of these books is the fact that fortunately, I'd already done a show a number of years back in Stockholm in Sweden, Hotel Rivel, owned by one of the ABBA. I think it's Benny who owns it. But anyway, in the theatre there. And that's where I very rapidly learned that when you've got people of different languages, even if they can speak English, you've got to, when you give them an instruction or a command, you've got to pause and give them time to translate inside their head what you've just said and get the context of it and understanding of it before they will react. So automatically their reactions are slower than they would be when I am talking in English to an English person doing a show in England or, well, anywhere in the world, but with English subjects, where English is their native original mother tongue, as it were. When I suggest stuff to them, make hypnotic commands, they react, when they're a good subject, instantly. But when someone's mother tongue is a different language, even when they're good subjects, tends to be a time delay, because they've got to process it from English into whatever their mother tongue language is, and then put it in the context, and so the reactions are slightly slower, which the first time you encounter that, it can be quite unnerving, because you're thinking normally people have reacted by now and become animated, and you're expecting laughs from the audience already because you're expecting stuff to have happened. And if you bottle it and think, and panic, it means that you'll try and move on to another routine or something because you think it's not working. If you've never encountered this and an opportunity such as this comes up for you, then be brave. Pause. I know 2 or 3 seconds longer than normal when you're on stage in front of an audience can feel like an eternity to you, the performer. But to the audience, especially when they speak a different language, the audience themselves, and they're having to do the translation in their head. Okay, they may speak English as a second language, but they're still going to do a translation, so to speak. Then to them, that little time delay, it's fully acceptable. And it's totally normal to them, where you could quite easily panic as the performer, which I did years ago in Stockholm, I'll be honest with you. But fortunately, because I'd gone through that and learnt the hard way, everyone's got to have a first time, you know. I was able today, when I was saying, you know, it's a cold day, you're shivering and shaking, when they didn't immediately that second start shivering, shaking and warming themselves up, rather than panicking and trying to move on to a different routine, I waited. it seemed like an eternity. I'm assured afterwards that it was literally maybe a couple of seconds at most, but to me it felt like forever. But I knew I had to wait, and sure enough, then the action began, because they translated and then they reacted. There was just that slight time delay. That's something you learn by getting out there and doing it. The other thing is I'm a naturally fast speaker, and I am on these YouTube, Facebook Live videos. But when I know that I'm performing for an audience where English is not their mother tongue, I have to discipline myself psychologically to speak a lot more precisely and slowly. So it's a little bit almost, if this was a normal conversation in England, it would probably be deemed by another English person as slightly patronising, talking like this. However, it makes me way more easily understood and gives the people more time to translate the words I say into their mother tongue, thus helping a little bit to shorten the time delay between me giving them the hypnotic commands, them processing it in their mind from the English I've spoken into their mother tongue language, which in this case was Swedish. Obviously, when I've been in other countries or done multicultural audiences, there can be people of all nationalities, and although they understand my English, their mother tongue could be Japanese, Chinese, which I had all that at Hotel Rival in Stockholm a few years back. And again, by talking slowly and what to another English person would be deemed as slightly patronising in England, but talking for me at this much slower, more precise, overpronounced almost speed allows the people time to process those words I speak in English through their mind into their mother tongue. I'll go back to being me now. Into their mother tongue, and also means that it slightly shortens the time delay between them processing and a physical action occurring where there's something visual for the audience to watch. Because hypnosis is invisible, you can't see it. You can only see the effects of it. And that's, especially with television more so, you need things to be visual. I'll tell you now, when these things come out, these 4 episodes come out, I'm told in April next year, a public showing in Sweden first, and then they'll probably go to something like MIPCOM, the television convention at Cannes Film Festival, to be sold around the world. When they go out, I can honestly say that not all, any stage hypnotist who's actually done television work or really worked in the real world in the trenches and is honest enough will, I am sure, look at the episodes and actually say, you know what, even if I think Jonathan Royle, Alex, call him what you will, is a complete and utter twit, substitute that word with whatever you want, I think most, if they're being honest to themselves, will say, actually, he's done a bloody good job there, putting hypnosis across. Yeah, yes, indeed. Yeah, exactly. Christian, who's commenting on the video, you'll see below, someone who's actually been there and died on their arse and can admit it, as you do in your book, The Honest Hypnotist Guide, which, as you know, I unreservedly recommend to anyone, whether you're already a stage hypnotist or you're getting into it. So, if they're honest with themselves, they'll say, you know what, he's pulled a blinder there under the most difficult of circumstances, because nobody knew there was going to be a hypnotist. They didn't know until I walked out in front of them without an introduction to do the pre-show work. But the pre-show work was limited to literally 15 minutes to an audience of just under 50 people. And if you believe the stuff in the old books, you should be able to get about 10% natural somnambulists. Bollocks. And I wanted at least 6. I'll be honest and upfront with you. Pre-show, because there was one key thing, they also needed to sign consent forms legally and agree to go on television. So I asked them all, I went through the things like, anyone here a Doctor Who fan, Star Trek fan, natural, into fantasy stuff like that? And I got a show of hands. And then I said, is anyone here who gets so lost in a book that they can't hear the partner when they're asking them if it's time for dinner? More hands. And I said, is the people here who, when they go to a film, they almost feel as though they're in it, they're absorbed into it? More show of hands. So I got them all to keep their hands in the air, the people that had answered these. And I said, okay, this time, put your hands down in your lap if you definitely don't want to consent to be hypnotised today. And a large number of hands went down, largely of the older generation. There were some senior citizens there, quite a number of them. So actually, my numbers in the audience of realistic people were a lot less than 50, if I'm truthful and bluntly honest. And then I said, look, this time, put your hands down into your lap if you might like the idea of being hypnotised, but if you do not want to get up here on this stage at the front and be filmed and ultimately broadcast on television around the world in the future, potentially. And other hands went down because some people just don't want to be on TV. So my numbers are going down all the time, but I've got laws to abide by. And not just hypno laws and health and safety laws, but also the fact that they need signed consent forms. So the people, need to have agreed to take part. They need to sign the consent forms. They also need to agree to be manhandled a bit, not in a bad way. But I had to tell them as well, if you do volunteer and you're successfully picked to be one of the 6, then also you're going to need to be wired up with a microphone so you can be heard on telly and stuff. And a few more. Cheers, Christian. Yeah, cheers, dude. Have a good evening, and catch you soon. They will. So a few more go out. So I'm working with very low numbers just by circumstance, not through any lack of ability, just by abiding by laws and doing things ethically, morally, and legally correct. So then I went into doing the magnetic fingers, and basically everybody. Not a problem. That was cool. And then I went into what I call the doesn't always work locked hands. Not the physical one where you put your hands together above your head and pretty much it's a physiological trick. I don't know why, but I found myself going, sod it, take a chance. So I did the pure suggestion version where, generally speaking, it's a case of the people whose hands stay locked together are really suggestible, but you do lose considerably more people than you do when you use the physiological trick, guaranteed locked hands method that I teach in a lot of my seminars. So I did that, and to be honest, a surprisingly large number of those that were still agreeing to participate, in fact the vast majority of them, pretty much all of them, hand locked. So then I gave a final ask for, hands in the air. They're still locked at this time. I've not clapped my hand yet to separate them. But hands up in the air as they are if you agreed to take part. Some people chickened out, so I separated their hands. And I was left with 7 people at this point who were willing to participate. So I got all 7 up. And I did, ultimately, Robert Temple's Seesaw Induction. Which you can find on my website, magicalguru.co.uk. It never fails me. Sure enough, all of them went under, but to varying degrees. And I had to make my decision who to lose. So I lost somebody, and then I gave them a suggestion that when I said, come and join the party, they would come back to the stage, and ultimately I'd be able to hypnotise them in a matter of seconds. So that was that. All done in a little under 15 minutes, together with pre-talk, the whole lot, covering the health and safety and legal stuff and ethical and moral stance and all that. Pretty difficult as they come circumstances, especially given also that English is not their mother tongue and there's the translation and time delays that I talked about earlier in this video. So we then come to filming, and as you'll see when it goes out, I'm stood on stage all ready, but with my back to the audience. And when the voiceover goes, suddenly the lighting came up and there was a mass explosion. and I get a whole ton of gold, glittery confetti drops onto me as I turn around dramatically, and the audience go wild with applause, as they do in TV studios. And I'm now covered in gold stuff I'm trying to flick off, but it's okay, carry on regardless. And I say, come and join the party. And sure enough, all the people come down to the stage, all 6 of them. Excellent. I sit them down. I decide to go to the gentleman first, because I've got 5 ladies and a man, because ultimately I only had 6 ladies and a man come down during the pre-show stuff. And I was going to do a drop back so it looked visual and dramatic on television. Okay. Now, let me tell you, for the purist out there, in my initial talk, now if they edit it out, I don't think they will, because of the way I said it, I made it quite clear that to broadcast the hypnotic induction in England and some other places is illegal to broadcast in full. So that therefore I had already done a little bit of preparatory work in advance with the people so that we would not have to show the full hypnotic induction on television. The reason being that A, I was being honest and upfront, and B, because then it saves them having to do editing, because indeed, in England, you are not allowed to show the full hypnotic induction. So if that had been all filmed, it would have had to have been edited out when it's sold to the British television market in the future. So that's why that was done. So I'm doing the drop back, and the guy starts falling back, and then suddenly he stumbles and stops himself from falling. And you could see he was shook. He was like, whoa, that was weird. Now, some people will go, oh no, what an absolutely terrible start. But another key of hypnosis is to carry on as though you've seen it a million times before, it doesn't faze you, it's perfectly fine. So I just said to him, wow, that is really weird, isn't it? You purposely stopped yourself then, didn't you? Because you were going so deep. And he kind of reacted like, yes, because I'd fed the words to him. And so then I got him to sit down. The moment he was sat down, I pattern interrupted, shook him by his hand and said, sleep! And he went out like a light, like a sack of spuds, which the audience, audibly, you could hear go, wow! Even though they'd seen the pre-show bit, they still went, wow! So for television, this is going to look awesome. I went to the other end of the line then and did a handshake induction on somebody. I then went up to a lady, and there were all ladies that were left. I said, you wouldn't do anything daft like that, would you? And she said, no. And I just clicked my fingers and went, sleep! Out she went. I then went to 2 other people, had them both look at me and just said, stare at my hand, and I went, sleep, with my hand downwards, and they both went out, leaving one lady left, who I told that this was the... Oh, hang on, let me get the video. This was the magic sleep gun, and that in a moment, when I shoot the gun at them, they'd go under, and I literally just mimed it, didn't say a word, and I went, and the moment the trigger went down, instantly, eyes out, head forward, like a loose limp rag doll, out of it in the chair. It'll look great visually on television. So they're all out of it. And then in terms of routines, now it's probably going to get edited down a bit, because I was supposed to do 7.5 minutes in total, which is a bit difficult to keep that short. And I think I ended up doing close to, I'm not entirely certain. I think somebody told me it was about 13 minutes I did. But there is also talk that they're going to extend my slot to show more of it. So with any luck, they'll just cut out the Cold Winter's Morning sketch from the beginning, because, yes, the people were animated eventually, but it took a bit of time to get them warmed up, I'll be honest with you, because of the language translation thing I talked about before. But then it went swimmingly well after that. So we did the hot day, sunbathing in the sun lounges. But all of these things, although they're as old as the hill sketches, what I'd worked on this for months, actually, believe it or not. It'll make sense when you see the 4 episodes, because this thing's called Television Without Frontiers, and it's based on a thing that was called Euricon, I think it's Euricon. If you type Euricon Television Without Frontiers project into Google, you'll see it was an attempt to make an international television station that broadcasted in all languages and was for everyone. And it never got off the ground. It got shelved. But that's what this project's about, as well as socio-political take on the media, how it controls people, how it can be used for good to bring people together, but how people in power sometimes use it to push people apart. So it is actually a performance art project, but also part socio-political, educational. It's like nothing I've ever been involved in and nothing you'll have ever seen before in terms of what a hypnotist has been involved in. So yeah, the hot day, the idea was that they were on a holiday resort somewhere, so there's somewhere else in the world, which linked in with the fact of Euricon being about uniting the world. It was, and we did the old suntan lotion getting rubbed in the body, the flies being attracted by it, sand ants running up the legs, and then eating the ice creams, it running down the hand, but the flies getting attracted again and all that, before putting them all back to sleep. And then telling them that when the music began, they would be on the farm milking their goats, G-O-A-T, goats. Because, as I mentioned earlier, there was a live goat, a live duck, and a live rooster that walked across the television studio during one section of the interviews. I really can't explain. You'll have to see it when it goes out. So it was a throwback to that I got the milking goats, and then the goat turned into a cow, the world's tallest cow, shortest cow, and all that kind of stuff. So it linked in with the fact there was a goat in the studio in one of the episodes. We then, what did I do then? Because we had 6 different interpreters there in boxes translating from Arabic, French, Swedish, English. I can't remember. I've had a mental block, but there were 6 boxes with interpreters doing all these different language interpretations. So as there was an interpreter there, well, numerous of them, and it was about bringing the world together, I thought, hey, this is perfect for the alien sketch. So I turned 3 of the ladies into aliens from outer space and 1 of them into the alien interpreter who could communicate with me and the aliens, and did an interview thing through the interpreter, asking them questions where they were from, and this, that, the other, but things that were guided so that the answers would hopefully be funny, which they got last from the audience, so assumedly they were. Certainly to the Swedish people anyway. And a lovely moment happened when the man was asked by the alien interpreter, after me having asked what your hobby is, and his answer, or what do you do for a job, sorry, and he said that his job was his hobby and it was a collector. So I had to ask the question, what do you collect? The interpreter asked this to the alien, who answered, I collect, get ready for this, confetti. Well, the stage is full of gold limey confetti that's been exploded onto me at the start of the routine. If you're joining partway through, you'll have to watch the video from the beginning for it to make sense. So, at which point he leant over and picked some up, which got a laugh. So I got the interpreter to tell him that when we'd finished the interview, he could have as much of the confetti as he wanted. The interpreter told the male alien, and everyone could visibly see his face lit up, beaming, big smile, and he looked like he was the cat that had got the cream, that he'd won the lottery, which got a great laugh as well. And I did later on let him collect up loads of the confetti, as you can imagine. Get it out, clean up a bit, as well as being comical in itself. I then did a routine where I got 2 of the ladies to believe that when I said the phrase bananas, bananas, that they thought the person next to them had farted and made a horrible smell. Well, 2 of the other ladies, when they heard that same phrase, bananas, bananas, thought that they got an electric shock from the chair, and then we had all the mayhem of the farters wanting to sit somewhere else and the hot chair people wanting to sit somewhere else. There was all this physical movement happening where they're getting up, moving around, changing chairs, which is visual for television, as well as being mildly comedic. Well, the audience were laughing. The Swedish liked it. So who knows what will happen in terms of the rest of the world. And then everyone was put back under. And if I remember correctly, that's the point where one of the ladies who was actually stood up at that point. So I put them under the rest of them in the chairs, and then I went up to this lady and I just walked up behind her and said, sleep, and basically she went like a rag doll, and I lay down on the floor, which was quite convenient because to end, I told everyone sat in the chairs that when the music began, they were at the Eurovision Song Contest, but they were not singers, they were backing dancers. But they weren't the best ones, they were Team B. The world's worst, most uncoordinated, stupid, ridiculous dancers. And they'd be doing that to the music till I tapped them on the centre of the head, and when I did, everything I said would be cancelled out. They'd realise, what the heck are they doing? And I'd send them back to the audience, and the audience would cheer. But I told the lady on the floor that she would be a duck, because there was a duck in one of the episodes, a real duck. So it's another throwback to the other episodes, and that she'd have the bendy legs, the flappy arms, and she'd be trying to lay a square egg, and randomly doing the quack every now and again. So this again was very visual, because the duck going around, quacking, and there's the dancers dancing to the music. One by one, I'm tapping them on the head. They're apparently going, oh, where am I? Looking shocked, and then I'm sending them back one by one to cheers. So we're left with just Duck Lady now, as the duck on stage, who I tell that when I tap the duck on the shoulder, the duck will give out the biggest quack of its entire life, and that's the moment it actually manages to lay the square egg, which I do. We get the massive quack, big laugh from the audience, and then I tap her on the head. She realises what the heck's going on. I send her back, and I say, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Jonathan Royle. Thank you, good night, huge cheers. The people there loved it. How it's going to come out in post-production, I don't know. What will your working, jobbing stage hypnotists say when they see it on television in their country? They'll probably say it's crap, most of them. But I guarantee the ones that say it's crap will be the ones who have never done television work in their life and missed the point that I'm there to entertain the general public, not other stage hypnotists. One for the record, it was 100% squeaky clean. Yes, Britain's once bad boy of hypnosis has filmed a 100% squeaky clean, every member of the family could watch it television project. Yeah, bizarre. What can I say? So, yeah, if you just watched us, joined us part way through, watched the video from the beginning, it'll make a hell of a lot more sense. It's been a very tiring few days. One other thing. Is that when I did the alien sketch and they started answering the questions, the interpreter put to them, when they were answering, the audience were laughing. And at first, inside my head for a split second, I doubted myself and I thought, are they just reacting in Swedish? And the audience are laughing because they're not talking alien, gobbledygook. They're answering in Swedish and they're thinking, oh. But I carried on regardless because I thought there's not much I can do at this stage. And afterwards, I breathed a massive sigh of relief when one of the production team, when I got a chance to talk to them with no one else around, confirmed to me that they were not speaking Swedish when they were asked the questions while they were aliens. It was most definitely gobbledygook, made up alien language. So it actually did work. But the lesson to be learnt is carry on regardless, because ultimately, if it hadn't have worked the way I thought, the audience would have remembered the good bits, not the bad. As it happened, it did work, and I had nothing to worry about. As it happens, despite the incredibly difficult circumstances that I explained earlier in the video. And if you're just joining us now, watch the video from the start when the replay's there, because, if you do stage hypnosis shows, that is, because then if you ever get a TV project like this come up where people have a different language than your own, then the tips are invaluable. It's about making things visual, but it's about slowing down the pace at which you speak to enunciate your words more clearly and give them more time to translate the words you say inside their mind to their mother tongue so that they can then react, which is still, there could be a little bit of a time delay before they make their physical reactions, which can panic people the first time it happens. It did me years ago, but now having travelled the world and encountered it a number of times, you learn to deal with it. And hopefully, if you ever encounter that kind of thing, you'll be a step ahead of the game, because nobody had pre-warned me about that kind of stuff when I first encountered it. So yeah, look out for Television Without Frontiers. I'm sure as soon as the public showing's been done in April 2019 in Gothenburg, Sweden, and then it's no doubt it'll probably get taken to somewhere like MIPCOM, the Cannes TV Festival, to be sold around the world. Needless to say, when I know the transmission dates, I'll be posting them all around social media. If a load of the stage hypnotists in this world didn't like me already, they really won't when this comes out, because of the social media traction that it will get worldwide, because of the socio-political elements to it and all this. Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks for all the support and messages over the past few days. I'm going to chill out now for a couple of hours, ring my wife and daughter, and then have a bit of a read, mentally unwind, get some sleep, because getting picked up in the morning at 10 a.m, which is 9 a.m. United Kingdom time, to get to the airport and make the trip home. A joyful I've got at least 3.5 hours in Copenhagen airport coming home. So, tiring. But I should finally get home at about probably 7 o'clock United Kingdom, Greenwich Mean Time, tomorrow. And then have an incredibly good sleep in my own bed, and then get up on Monday and think, what is the next project? This has been being worked on for months now. I'm excited that it's been done, but I'm more excited for 2019 to see this start hitting television. It won't be till the middle of 2019 by the time it's sold and broadcast around the world, but it is going to be it's going to be out there. It's going to get seen. So yeah, haters are always going to hate. But, fortunately, thankfully, I've got some good friends out there. So thanks to each and every one of you. And bye for now.